In a world built on noise, panic, and overreaction, calmness is the rarest superpower. Most people believe strength is shown in force, in speed, in how quickly you can react. But the truth is the opposite. Real strength is measured in your ability to remain still when everyone else is spinning out of control. It's in the way you keep your composure when others are yelling, when fear spreads through the room, when chaos pulls at you like a storm. Calmness is not passive, it's active power. Because when you stay calm, you can see what no one else sees. You can think clearly when everyone else is blind. You can hold the frame when everyone else is breaking. The world constantly tests you in this way. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker snaps at you. A partner throws accusations. The crowd panics over news or rumors. And what happens? People match chaos with chaos. One person loses their head and suddenly the room multiplies it. Anger grows louder, fear spreads wider, and clarity disappears completely. But here's the truth. When you join them, you lose with them. When you stay calm, you rise above them. Stoic wisdom says you can't control the storm, but you can control yourself within it. That's what this lesson is about. Not just staying calm on the surface, but learning how to build a calm that cannot be shaken no matter what happens around you. Because when you master that, you stop being the one tossed around by chaos and you become the anchor everyone else looks to when the storm hits. To understand why calmness is so powerful, you first need to understand why people lose it so easily. Chaos exposes the truth about human nature. Most people are driven not by reason, but by emotion. Fear spreads faster than facts. Anger travels quicker than logic. When uncertainty strikes, the majority of people react without thinking. They follow the crowd, they mirror the panic, and they multiply the noise. It's instinct, it's survival mode. The nervous system interprets threat, and instead of slowing down to respond, people speed up to react. That's why, in any crisis, a sudden argument, a financial crash, a heated room, you'll always see the same pattern. People scramble, people shout, people point fingers. Few step back, even fewer breathe. Almost none stay grounded. This happens because the human mind hates uncertainty. When there are no clear answers, people rush to fill the void with assumptions, fears, and worst-case scenarios. That rush becomes contagious. One person's panic infects another until suddenly a group is swept up in chaos with no one stopping to ask, does this even make sense? In that state, people don't want truth. They want relief. They'll cling to any voice, any belief, any reaction that promises to ease the discomfort. That's why manipulation thrives in panic, because when people lose their calm, they hand over their judgment. Stoic wisdom says this is the weakness of the crowd, being tossed from emotion to emotion, storm to storm, without ever standing still. And that's why calmness is so rare, because calmness is resistance to this instinct. It's saying, I will not be pulled by your fear. I will not be dragged by your noise. I will not lose my head just because you've lost yours. That's the separation between ordinary people and leaders. Ordinary people panic with the herd. Leaders anchor themselves and change the energy of the room. When you lose your calm, you lose everything that matters most in the moment. Panic steals your clarity first. It blinds you. In panic, your body floods with adrenaline, your breathing shortens, your vision narrows. You're no longer processing reality as it is. You're reacting to a distorted version of it. That's why people say things they regret in anger, make reckless decisions in fear, and crumble under pressure. Panic doesn't just magnify the problem, it creates new ones. The second cost is credibility. The moment you lose your head, people stop seeing you as a leader. Even if you're right, even if your point is valid, the way you carry yourself erases the power of your truth. Think about it. Who do people respect in crisis? The one screaming and flailing, or the one who stands steady while the fire burns? Calmness commands attention. Panic makes you forgettable, or worse, dismissible. The third cost is control. Panic hands your power to whoever is calmer than you. If someone wants to manipulate you, all they need to do is stir your emotions, because once you're emotional, you're predictable. You'll defend, you'll chase, you'll overreact, all while they remain centered, pulling the strings. That's why in toxic dynamics, gaslighters and manipulators push for emotional reactions. The moment you panic, they win. And finally, panic costs you self-respect. Every time you break down in the face of pressure, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle it. You start doubting yourself, wondering if you'll ever be strong enough to stay centered. That doubt lingers long after the moment has passed. It eats away at your confidence until you start living in fear of chaos itself instead of mastering it. Stoic wisdom says that true strength isn't found in overpowering others, but in mastering yourself. Panic is proof that you've surrendered that mastery. Calmness is proof that you've reclaimed it. When you choose calm, you not only protect your clarity, your credibility, and your control, you preserve the dignity of knowing that no storm, no person, no situation can drag you beneath your own standard. Calmness in chaos doesn't just protect you, it changes how others see you. In a room where everyone is shouting, the person who remains composed becomes magnetic. People naturally gravitate towards steadiness because it provides what they've lost, a sense of control. That's why true leaders don't need to bark orders or demand attention. They command presence simply by not losing theirs. When you stay calm while everyone else is unraveling, you automatically rise above them, not through arrogance, but through contrast. Your silence cuts through noise, your stillness cuts through panic, and your focus cuts through distraction. This composure earns you respect. People may not agree with you in the moment, but they will remember that you didn't break. They'll remember that when things got messy, you were the one who didn't fold. That memory builds trust, and trust is influence. Over time, people start looking to you instinctively when pressure rises, because you've proven you won't crumble like the rest. But there's something deeper here. Composure doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. Every time you resist the urge to snap back, every time you breathe instead of panic, you reinforce a powerful identity, the identity of someone unshakable. That identity builds inner strength, so that the next storm feels smaller than the last. Instead of life breaking you down piece by piece, you start using each test as training. And make no mistake, composure isn't about suppressing emotion or pretending nothing affects you. It's about mastery. It's about letting the wave of panic crash around you without letting it pull you under. It's the ability to feel the chaos without becoming it. And that ability separates the ones who survive the storm from the ones who drown in it. Stoic wisdom says, the one who conquers themselves is greater than the one who conquers the world. Composure is the living proof of that truth. It shows you're not enslaved to your environment, your circumstances, or other people's reactions. You own yourself, and when you own yourself, no one else can. The ability to stay calm when everyone else is losing it doesn't happen by accident. It's not luck, it's training. Most people spend their lives reacting, letting every insult, every piece of bad news, every wave of uncertainty dictate their state. But calmness is not a reaction, it's a choice you build into yourself through practice. It starts with the nervous system. When chaos hits, your body wants to speed up, your breath shortens, your heart races, your mind scrambles. If you don't train it, that state owns you. But if you learn to slow your breath, slow your thoughts, and sit in discomfort without moving, you rewire your body to see calm as the default, not panic. This is why calmness feels so rare, because it requires you to fight against your own programming. And that's not easy. It's hard to hold your ground when your instincts scream at you to react. But every time you resist that urge, you grow. You become harder to shake, harder to manipulate, harder to break. Calm becomes your shield. Calm becomes your weapon. Calm becomes your identity. And this is where I want to remind you, if you're serious about mastering this level of detachment and emotional control, you'll want to go deeper than just these videos. That's why I created Surviving the Toxic Bond, now available as an audiobook and ebook. The audiobook especially is powerful because you can carry it with you. Listen while you're driving, walking, or in those moments you feel panic rising. It's like having a guide in your ear reminding you how to stay centered when your emotions want to take over. And if you like to study and reflect slowly, the ebook is there too. Some even use both together, reading and listening at the same time to really let the lessons sink in. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Because here's the truth. If you don't train calm, chaos will always own you. But once you start practicing, once you condition yourself, you'll discover that calmness isn't fragile. It's unbreakable. And when others lose their heads, you'll stand as proof that mastery is possible. It's one thing to understand calmness in theory, but the real challenge is what you do in the exact moment chaos hits. When voices are raised, when pressure is high, when fear spreads through the room, how do you stop yourself from being pulled into it? The answer lies in anchors. Anchors are the practical habits that ground you when emotions surge. The first anchor is your breath. Most people breathe shallow and fast when panic rises, which only feeds the storm inside. But when you consciously slow your breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth, you send a signal to your body. We are safe. We are steady. It doesn't just calm your mind, it resets your nervous system. The second anchor is pause. When chaos demands reaction, pause is rebellion. Before you respond, before you lash out, before you mirror the panic around you, stop. A single pause can save you from words you can't take back and decisions you'll regret. The pause creates a gap between impulse and action, and inside that gap is freedom. The third anchor is observation. Instead of being consumed by the storm, step outside it for a moment. Ask yourself, what's really happening here? Who's losing their head? What's driving this chaos? By observing instead of absorbing, you detach from the emotional wave and start seeing patterns others miss. That perspective is power. The fourth anchor is reframing. Chaos often tricks your mind into seeing disaster where there's only discomfort. But when you reframe, when you tell yourself this isn't the end, this is a test, this isn't chaos, this is training, the storm shrinks. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of it and start seeing yourself as a student of it. And in that shift, panic turns into practice. Finally, the fifth anchor is self-command. It's reminding yourself in the moment. I don't need to match their energy. I don't need to play their game. I don't need to give away my peace just because they lost theirs. This affirmation cuts through noise like a blade. It reminds you that calm is always available, not as a luxury, but as a choice. Stoic wisdom says, between stimulus and response lies our power. These anchors are how you access that power. They don't erase chaos, but they make sure chaos doesn't erase you. And the more you practice them, the more natural calmness becomes, until it stops being something you reach for and starts being something you are. At the heart of calmness lies one of the oldest truths in Stoic wisdom. You cannot control the storm, but you can control how you walk through it. This is the dividing line between those who crumble and those who stand firm. Most people lose their head because they try to control what was never theirs to control. They panic about how others behave, about outcomes they can't predict, about events they can't stop. That panic is born from clinging to the uncontrollable, but calmness is born from clarity, the clarity to separate what belongs to you from what doesn't. What belongs to you? Your actions, your perspective, your choices, your response. What does not belong to you? The words others throw at you, the decisions they make, the chaos they create. The moment you try to own what isn't yours, you drown. The moment you release it, you breathe. That's the shift. Calmness isn't about controlling everything around you. It's about mastering what's within you. This is why, in the middle of crisis, the Stoic doesn't waste energy on blame or fear. They ask a simple question: what can I do right now with what I control? And then they act, not frantically, but deliberately. Everyone else burns themselves out chasing the uncontrollable, while the Stoic conserves their energy, aiming it only where it matters. That is why calmness looks like power. Because while others scatter, you stay sharp. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to control what isn't yours, you gain influence over it. People see your steadiness and adjust. They borrow from your calm. The chaos that once threatened to consume you begins to bend around you because you are no longer feeding it. That's the quiet strength of surrender. It doesn't mean giving up. It means giving back what never belonged to you in the first place. Calmness is not passive. Calmness is clarity, and clarity is control. Not over the storm, but over yourself within it. That's the kind of control no one can ever take away. Calmness doesn't just protect you, it transforms the environment around you. Think about any chaotic situation, a heated argument, a workplace crisis, a family conflict. In those moments, people are not looking for who's the loudest. They're looking, often unconsciously, for who's the most stable, and the one who stays calm becomes that anchor. Without raising their voice, without forcing control, they shift the energy of the entire room. People start mirroring their pace, their tone, their presence. This is the silent influence of calmness. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it. Why does this happen? Because human beings are wired for co-regulation. When one person panics, others catch it. But the same is true of calm. Your stillness, your patience, your deliberate way of responding instead of reacting, it spreads. People breathe easier around you. They think clearer around you. They begin to trust you, even if they can't explain why. That trust is the foundation of leadership. Leaders are not the ones with the loudest orders. They're the ones with the strongest presence. And here's what's powerful. Calmness often silences manipulators. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect anger, tears, or defensiveness. But when you give them nothing but steady composure, their strategy falls apart. They either escalate until they expose themselves, or they withdraw because their tactics don't land. Either way, your calm exposes the truth without you having to lift a finger. This is why calmness is such a rare kind of power. It doesn't need performance, it doesn't need noise, it needs control. And when you hold that control in yourself, people begin to place their trust in you, even against their own will. You become the person others follow in uncertainty, not because you demanded it, but because you proved you wouldn't break. Stoic wisdom says the one who masters themselves becomes a guide for others. When you remain calm, you aren't just protecting your own peace, you're offering peace to everyone else in the room. And that is influence at its highest level, not manipulation, not force, but presence. Calmness is not something you switch on when life gets messy. It's something you live with every day. If you only practice calm in the storm, you'll always be shaken when it arrives. But when calm becomes who you are, no storm can break you. This is the difference between using calmness as a tactic and embodying it as an identity. A tactic can be forgotten under pressure. An identity cannot. When calmness is woven into the way you see yourself, your response to chaos becomes automatic. You don't scramble, you don't lash out, you don't surrender your mind. You breathe, you center, you hold. This identity is built in small choices. It's in how you respond to irritation on a normal day, how you handle delays, how you carry yourself when you're tested in minor ways. Each moment is training. Each pause, each breath, each refusal to mirror chaos is a brick laid in the fortress of your character. Over time, you stop having to remind yourself to be calm. You simply are. People around you notice it too. They begin to describe you as steady, unshakable, the one they can rely on when things fall apart. And that reputation is priceless. But the real reward isn't what others see, it's what you feel. Because once calm becomes your identity, you stop living in constant reaction. You stop letting the world dictate your mood. You stop giving your power away to noise you cannot control. Calm becomes your shield against manipulation, against panic, against fear. And in that shield, you find freedom. Stoic wisdom says the greatest victory is mastery over yourself. To live calm is to live undefeated, not because the storms stop coming, but because you stop being moved by them. When calmness is your identity, No argument, no crisis, no person's chaos can drag you beneath your own standard. You remain still, steady. If there's one lesson I want you to take from this, it's that calmness isn't passive, it's power. The person who stays calm when everyone else is losing their head isn't weaker, they're stronger. They're the anchor in the storm, the one who sees clearly when everyone else is blind. And that strength is available to you every time you choose not to react, but to hold. Calmness is your weapon. Calmness is your shield. Calmness is the proof that you belong to yourself, not to chaos. And remember, if you want to go deeper into building this level of control, download Surviving the Toxic Bond. The audiobook lets you carry these lessons with you anywhere, and the ebook gives you a guide to study and reflect on. If you want it to really sink in, use both together. The links are waiting for you in the description and pinned comment. If this video spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video so it reaches more people. Drop a comment and share your own perspective on staying calm under pressure, and subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson. Most importantly, share this with someone who needs it, because there are people out there right now drowning in chaos, and your act of sharing might be the thing that steadies them. Remember, storms don't choose who they hit, but you can always choose who you are when they arrive. Stay calm, stay grounded, and never hand your peace over to panic.